Hey guys, Katie here, and today I'm reviewing the first two books in the Split World series. I recently finished the second book in the Split World series by Emma Newman. This one's called Any Other Name, and the first one is called Between Two Thorns. This is an urban fantasy series published by Angry Robot, and one thing that I really like about it is that its adult fiction is not about teenagers. So I really enjoyed this because I felt more like I could relate to these characters. Gotta stretch. Listen. The world in this story is so complicated. I legitimately filmed a video the other day that was something like 22 minutes long. When I was looking at it to edit it, I was like, this is ridiculous. There's no point to this. So I'm gonna try again. I'm just gonna, okay. Basically, the Split Worlds refers to the two worlds, our world, which is Mundanus as they call it, and the world of the Fae-touched, the great families. These great families live in the Nether. It's a sparkly, shiny place full of rich, beautiful houses that every house in the Nether has to be anchored to a house in Mundanus. So they rely on Mundanus to have their buildings, but they want nothing to do with them otherwise. So the main character of these books is Kathy, and she is a disillusioned member of the great family from the Nether. She's part of the Poppy family. Inside the Nether, there are a couple of different cities, presumably many different cities, but we're just talking about England here, that are reflected from Mundanus, and Kathy is from the Bath Reflection, which is called Aquasulis. As a teenager, Kathy is allowed to make one wish to the patron of her family, which is a Fae, Lord Poppy, and she does not pick what everyone else expects her to pick, such as she wants to be beautiful, she wishes to, have something special about her. She wishes to go to university, and it disappoints everyone, and eventually she does get to go to university in Oxford, and then she tries to run away. And she succeeds, and she lives in Manchester for a while. The story really begins when her patron, Lord Poppy, shows up and takes away the charm that was hiding her from her family, and her family immediately kidnaps her and brings her back into the Nether and forces her into an arranged marriage, and chaos ensues from there. That's really the gist of the first book without giving too much away. The first book I had a really tough time getting into. Between Two Thorns was kind of slow. There are a lot of little threads and stories happening, and it's really hard, I think, to keep up. Not only are you following Kathy through her experience in the Nether, but you're also following this guy named Max, who's an arbiter. He's kind of like a policeman for the Fae and the Fae-touched, and he works for a sorcerer, and you also have the Fae who are living in kind of a shiny prison that protects all the people outside of it from them. So there's a lot going on, and it's a little bit overwhelming. The other thing that was hard about the first book is that there's a plot, and the plot moves, especially once you get into it, it really starts to pick up, and it's great, it's a lot of fun. But the characters don't progress. The end of the story leaves Kathy exactly as she was in the beginning. How I feel about Kathy in the first book and for most of the second book is that she's incredibly selfish, and she's not capable of seeing the bigger picture. She doesn't grow at all, even though the entire first book is about her readjusting to life in the Nether and trying to figure out how to cope with it. She just kind of stays stalwart in her, I hate the Nether, I hate my family, and I gotta get out of here. Despite the fact that there are people in the Nether and people like Max and the Sorcerer of Wessex who are trying to help her, and maybe they have their own goals, but they're really nice to her actually. And I do think that the premise is a little complicated, and sometimes that's frustrating. But as far as urban fantasies go, this is a really good one with a great, in-depth world that you can really dive into, so that's good. Another thing I liked about the first book was that not all the characters were exactly likable, and everyone has their dark side, except for, of course, the Fae, because they're just all dark. They're all just crazy, mean, and powerful, which is just obnoxious, but that's part of the story and is important. Overall, I enjoyed the first book and I immediately wanted to start on the second book, but I was kind of frustrated by the characters and how little like anything change from point A to point B. And it was at that point that it occurred to me that maybe this series is really one book. You know what I mean? Instead of it being just, you can read between Two Thorns and be happy with it, that's not the case. You need to read the entire series. There are 3 books. That's what I think of the first book. The second book is Any Other Name, the one that I'm swinging around wildly, and it is by far my favorite of the 2. Any Other Name really picks up after Catherine is forced to marry someone. The investigation to figure out what's going on in Mandanus, something that was happening in the first book, is picking up pace. But this book focuses heavily on Kathy's husband, who is from a different family in the Nether, and his name is William. He gets a lot in this book, and you kind of see all sides of him, which is really interesting. And I think as a character he's good because he's not like the other people in the Nether. I didn't mention this, but it's very much like Regency England. It's all about manners, money, status, power, appearances, and William is really good at playing the game, but he doesn't care about it that much. So he's actually kind of perfect for Kathy, even though she doesn't want him at all, because he's seen the outside, because he did a grand tour of Mandanus. He's seen outside of the Nether, and he really liked it, and he appreciated it for what it was. He's not stuck up, and he's not obsessed with, you know, the social dramas and whatnot. He just is trying to help his family and basically get through it. And I think the cool thing about Will is that he's constantly kind of at odds with himself because he's trying to help Kathy, but he's also trying to help his family and himself, and he often has to ask himself, am I doing the right thing, or am I just doing this because it's what other people want me to do? I definitely think there are a lot of moral questions that William has to deal with, especially in the end of Any Other Name, which was mind-blowing actually. That was a very good ending, I think, even though no spoilers, but I was like, what? No. Kathy does change over the course of Any Other Name, which was really gratifying after seeing her be so stubborn throughout all of the first book. It sort of reminds me of In How I Met Your Mother, how Ted is constantly focused on this one thing and he just won't even deviate, even when it doesn't make sense. Ted's like, I have to marry someone and live happily ever after, even when he's not in the right place to be married or he's with the wrong person. I hate that about Ted, and I hate that about Kathy. But luckily, she starts to see things the way they are. In interacting with other characters in the Nether, she really starts to see that there's more going on in the Nether that deserves her attention. This is really fast-paced, and I couldn't put it down. In fact, Saturday I sat outside all day because it was a lovely 80 degrees with a little breeze, and I finished it up, and then I couldn't sleep because I was just dying. And I immediately ordered the 3rd book. I'm surprised because I've been kind of on the fence about this series, but I really enjoyed the 2nd book, and I think that the different threads come together a lot more, it makes more sense, and the characters show a lot of actual change, and you get to see a lot more of the world, and it's a really interesting one. Characters are pretty good, sometimes they're a little bit frustrating, you know, it's not perfect. It's a fun story if you like, you know, fae and urban fantasy. So I have this is the 3rd book, All Is Fair, and I have started it and I like it so far. I'm gonna do a review on this one probably next week or the week after that, once I finish it, once I collect my thoughts, so that'll be fun. So I guess my bottom line with this series is that it doesn't start off great, it's a little bit rocky, but eventually it gets to be really exciting and fun, and I would definitely recommend this to you if you like urban fantasy, if, like I said, if you like Regency, fiction, Jane Austen, Georgette Hare. It's very much all about the magic, so if you like that, you'll like these books. Anyway, read this book if you want to, and if you have any thoughts about it, leave them in the comments. I'm pretty excited about this. That's all for now. I will probably be back tomorrow with Friday Reads, so I will see you then, and have a good day. Bye!